Welcome everybody. I hope you're having a great Thursday night. It is just about 9:30 here in Pittsburgh. I am James Krasnerick, and this is Real Steel Sports on Spreaker Web Radio. This will probably be the first segment. I have two tonight I plan to do. Number one, of course, is my, weekly picks that I love to do. And the second one is one that actually you can say is inspired by the return of one of my favorite things, the NFL postseason playoff machine. You know what it is? It's a thing, it's an ESPN thing. If you Google it, you can actually simulate the rest of the season and find out where, if you pick all the games the rest of the way from week 12 on out, what your team will do, how the season will go, who will win each division, who will play each other in the playoffs. It's really interesting. I'm going to be doing that for the second show. But for show number one, I will definitely be doing my week 12 picks. Pardon me, everybody. Give me a couple seconds here. Alright, game number one is Kansas City at Oakland. Now, right now that game has started, and Kansas City is currently trailing 14-3. And the Raiders, I picked the Raiders to still lose this game, because eventually Kansas City is going to get rolling, and Alex Smith's going to complete some passes downfield. They'll be able to move the ball and stop the Chiefs, the Raiders, just enough to get the victory. So I'm going to predict the Chiefs to win because of that and the fact that their defense is one of the best defenses in the league right now, giving up less than 18 points per game. The next game will be the Browns at the Falcons. And I was going back and forth on this pick because right now, first off, 95% of the people, 96% of the people are predicting the Chiefs to win this game. I'm going with Cleveland over Atlanta. Now, Atlanta's got a very good passing game, and Matt Ryan's home record is ridiculous in the Georgia Dome. But right now, Cleveland, they're 6-4. They did come off a tough home loss to the Houston Texans, but they get their biggest weapon back this week. Josh Gordon, the leading receiver from last year. Now, I'm not expecting Josh Gordon to tear the league up and average 100 yards coming back off a 10-game suspension. I'm not buying that. But you know what I do buy? The idea that Josh Gordon can stretch a defense just enough to allow other guys like Andrew Hawkins to make an impact, and Jordan Cameron underneath, because all you need is a deep threat. If you use Josh Gordon as your decoy, you're set, because there's no way anybody in hell is going to be able to take care of Josh Gordon one-on-one and still have enough room for the rest of the defense. Now, actually, I'm on Twitter. If you hear me typing, I'm actually on Twitter right now. I'm actually going back and forth with some people, through my messages that are actually messaging me about my show tonight. I'm picking Cleveland to win for that fact, and the fact that the Atlanta Falcons defense is absolutely horrible. I'm going to give you a breakdown of what they are. They are 23rd in points allowed, and they're dead last against the pass. They've only given up 14 passing touchdowns, which isn't a high total. That's the third fewest total in the league. That's pretty impressive, actually. But here's the thing: on the ground, they give up over 120 yards a game, and they're doing it at 4 yards a clip, which is in the middle of the league. But the fact of the matter is, Cleveland and Brian Hoyer, that offensive line right now, they're coming together. And I'm not predicting Cleveland to. I don't know if they'll go to the playoffs this year, but I think that they'll beat Atlanta, even in the Georgia Dome. Now, the next game on our list is the Bills and the Jets. The Jets have been able to take out the Steelers, but they're not taking out the Bills in Buffalo. And actually, I should note, that game has been moved to Monday night at 7 o'clock in Detroit in Ford Field indoors, which I actually think gives the Bills even more of an advantage because the guys like Sammy Watkins and such, you can take advantage of their speed indoors. And the thing about the Bills is the fact that their pass rush is much better than the Steelers or most of the teams in the league this year. Like, if you were to look right now at the leading teams in terms of sacks accumulated, whether it be by the whole defense or whatnot, the team that has accumulated the most sacks this year in the NFL is the Buffalo Bills. They have 39 sacks on the year. It's a pretty impressive total, and that's another reason why I think they'll beat the Jets, because Michael Vick might be able to elude James Harrison and Brett Kiesel, but you got Mario Williams breathing down your neck and Marcel Darius. Yeah, you're going to be in some pain by the end of the day because they're just going to beat on him, especially because Vick has been known in his career to take an obscene amount of hits. The next game we have is the Buccaneers at Chicago, and I'll be honest, I'm going with the Buccaneers because Tampa right now is... They beat Washington, and Washington looked really good doing it, and I don't think Chicago is that much better. Because I know Chicago beat the Vikings last week, but let's think about it this way. The Bears' defense right now is as horrible as it's been in the team's illustrious history. Like, if you look where they rank across the board in terms of defense, it's pretty abysmal to think that a Bears defense could actually get this bad. They're dead last in points allowed. They have been absolutely horrible in that category. And honestly, their defense cannot take all the blame. This offense with Jay Cutler should be it. This offense with Cutler, Brandon Marshall, Matt Forte, Alshon Jeffrey, a better offensive line they've ever had, and a good tight end, Martellus Bennett, should be able to put up points at a monstrous rate, like at least 28 per game. They're 25th against the pass, 15th against the run, and they're 21st in yards per carry given up. They'll be going against the Buccaneers team that won't necessarily feature a great running game or a great passing game, but good luck if they can try to cover Vincent Jackson and the rookie wide receiver Mike Evans. Good luck with that, because it's going to be almost impossible. And on the flip side, I know Tampa's defense isn't that good either, but let's put it this way. They held Deshaun Jackson in check, and they held Pierre Garçon in check the entire game in Washington. I don't look at Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey as that much better. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Bucs in an upset, even in Chicago. Following that, we got the Bengals traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. Bengals, actually, I need to do the percentages. The Cleveland is predicted to win by 48% of the fans. 88%, actually 89% picked the Bills, and the Bears are favored by 92%. The Bengals travel to Houston. The Bengals are favored by 55% of the fans on NFL's Pigskin Pick'em on ESPN to win that game. And the Texans are clearly the underdog at home. But at the same time, they looked really good last week in their win over the Browns because they stymied a really, really good Browns offense. I know Brian Hoyer's not going to win Super Bowls and get to Pro Bowls and whatnot. I know Andrew Hawkins isn't going to set the league ablaze. But I will say this: Cleveland's offense isn't bad, and right now Cincinnati's offense, AJ Greenback has been huge for that football team. The long layoff between the Thursday loss at home to the Browns, which Dalton had one of the worst games in NFL history as a quarterback, a pass rating of 2. I think it was good, and it allowed them to mentally reset and get ready for the Saints. And I don't think going into Houston is as tough of a situation as going into New Orleans. But the big difference is that defense. The defense of the Houston Texans is vastly superior to that of the New Orleans Saints, both in the pass rush, the run defense, and on the passing end. So I look for guys like J.J. Watt to really take this game over. And the way that I see it going is this. I think it's going to be a tough game for the Bengals to win. But to be perfectly honest, I'm actually going to go with the Houston Texans. And I was going to go with the Bengals for the longest time, but I changed my mind for this reason. I'm not impressed with Cincinnati quite enough yet to start saying that they're going to win all their winnable games, because they've lost some winnable games. And right now, I know they went into New Orleans and beat the Saints, but you got to realize that Houston's defense is better and their pass rush is better. I look for guys like J.J. Watt to really get after Andy Dalton. Now we've got the Lions going to Foxborough to take on the Patriots in what will be probably the marquee game amongst the 1 o'clock ones. Detroit Lions, after their best start, one of their best starts in recent franchise history at 7-3. The Patriots, of course, 8-2. They've looked really good the last 6 games, and they've continued to pile on points. I mean, the way that they defeated Denver and the way that they destroyed the Bears, you got to give them credit. They're playing some damn good ball right now. Right now, New England is predicted to win this game by about 92% of the fans, which is a very impressive total. But right now, I think that the Patriots are still going to win this game, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as everybody predicts it. And here's my reasoning as to why. Because Detroit's pass rush is very good, and New England has not played anybody recently with as good a pass rush, as the Detroit Lions. And I think that's really going to be telling how they handle this, because Ndamukong Suh, Nick Fairley, and Ziggy Ansah had such a ferocious defensive front that there's a good chance that Gronkowski might have to spend a lot of the game blocking. And if he does, that takes him out of the passing game and means the Patriots are going to have to throw more. But the Detroit secondary actually has been very, very good this season. If you look at them right now defensively and where that they rank, they're first in points allowed. They're giving up 15.6 points per game. Now, that doesn't really sound impressive, but if you were to average that out over a 16-game season, that's only 250 points a game. That's a really impressive total. They're fifth in pass defense. They've recorded as many interceptions as passing touchdowns they've allowed. They're number 1 in rush defense and rushing yards allowed in terms of yards per carry by a good mile. And they're first in yardage defense as well. And look what they've done against some of the better offenses in this league. I mean, you look what they did in New Orleans. I mean, they forced several turnovers by the Saints. You saw what they did against Green Bay. They held them in check, only allowing 147 passing yards. They made Eli Manning look stupid. They made Ryan Tannehill look pedestrian after he'd been on a hot stretch. So, in retrospect, the Detroit secondary has really been good. And it's anchored by free safety Glover Quinn, linebacker DeAndre Levy, and how about the old guy, Rasheem Mathis, 9 games starting at cornerback and a revival in Detroit. I mean, this guy in 2006 was one of the best defensive players in the league, recorded 8 interceptions, was an all-pro. The guy's got some game. Now, for the Patriots, of course, Jonas Gray, of course, 4 touchdowns, almost 200 yards rushing last week in Indianapolis. I don't think he's going to get near that total. He's not real. I'd be surprised if the Patriots as a team cracked the 100-yard mark rushing, because right now the Lions defense is flexible enough to match up with the Patriots. And on the flip side, I think Stafford, Calvin Johnson, and Golden Tate have a very good chance of putting up some points in New England. Maybe 23, 24 points, I think, is a fair total. Do I think the Patriots are going to win? Yeah. I mean, 92% of the fans are picking them, and I think they're going to win too, because Detroit's a team built to go play on the road with their defense. But at the same time, New England, I think, is still a better team, and being at home helps. So I'd say the Patriots maybe win by like a touchdown. Now we go on to one of the more uninteresting games of the early session, Packers at Vikings. The Packers are favored to win by 97% of the fans, and there's no surprise to why. Aaron Rodgers, the last 2 weeks, has been absolutely ridiculous the way he's been playing. Just the guy has been absolutely dissecting teams. If you look at what he's been doing, let's look at his last 6 games. His last 6 games, he has combined to throw 23 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He's been on fire the last 6 weeks. And you look at what their averaging output is. 38 on the Bears, 42 on the Vikings, 38 in the Panthers, 55 on the Bears, 53 in the Eagles. They've just absolutely been tearing up the league. They have been making it look easy in Green Bay, because they got off to a slightly sluggish start to the year. But ever since they really kind of turned the corner, I think started throwing the ball a little bit more than they did, I think it's really helped them. Their defense has started to get a lot better. And if you hear that in the background, it's me putting my computer charger in. My battery's getting low. But, there we go. That's better. But anyways, just looking at the way the Packers have been doing business, there's no reason why. And the Vikings, they're a decent defense. They really are. But right now, Green Bay is on a roll, and the Packers' offense doesn't get hampered by bad weather. If it's bad weather in Minnesota, it doesn't matter. They can just hand it to Eddie Lacy. Because right now, the Minnesota Vikings, they're in trouble. Packers will win big. Now, Philly hosting the Titans. Philly favored by 97%. I go with Philly, too. I know Mark Sang just had a hiccup against the Packers. And then again, the Packers been blowing out everybody. But again, Tennessee doesn't provide much of a threat. The Steelers went into Tennessee and may have barely beaten them, but at the same time, the Steelers are very average, a team away from home this year. The Titans actually got the ball ran down their throats over 200 yards on the ground by Le'Veon Bell. But looking at the Eagles' offense, LaShawn McCoy, this is a game where it's almost like LaShawn McCoy is like destined to break out and have his best good game of the season. So I think that this will be a really good chance for him to shine. So I think the Eagles will win. The next game is one that could even be more one-sided, and that's the Colts hosting the Jags. 99% of the fans picked the Colts. The Colts have owned the Jacksonville Jaguars historically. I mean, it's been ridiculous how one-sided it's been. Trying to actually show. Let's see. The Indianapolis Colts in their franchise history have lost 8 times to the Jaguars. And they've won, I believe, 19 games. They're 19-8 historically against the Jaguars. They've absolutely owned them. And that's not a surprise because of the Peyton Manning era and now the Andrew Luck era. I mean, if you look at, the Colts have had some incredibly high-powered offenses, and they've just blown right through the Jaguars. And I don't think we're going to get really anything different than that in this game. I think the Colts at home, very comfortable. They should be able to blow right through Jacksonville. And now to start the 4 o'clock games. My upset pick, St. Louis to go into San Diego and beat the Chargers. San Diego was a team we thought was a good team starting off the season 5-1, but they've lost 3 of their last 4, and they've kind of started to go downhill because, again, they had a good start, but they didn't really play anybody that great. In the last 2 weeks, they've gone against some good opponents, and it's kind of blown up in their face. I mean, you saw what happened against the Dolphins, the Broncos, the Chiefs. Even going to Oakland, they didn't look. Even at home against Oakland, they didn't look that good. So you got to right now think that the Rams got to be licking their chops because San Diego has Phillip Rivers at quarterback, and he's been having a great year. He's had several really good years the last few years, but at the same time, due to his knee injuries that he's had over his career, he's about as mobile as a statue. And you're going against a Rams pass rush that has absolutely been scary. Not all this season, but the last few weeks. They've had a hot hand right now. And the way they've been able to shut down Peyton Manning, the way they've been able to shut down the 49ers the last few weeks, they're looking good. So I think you go with St. Louis on the road. I know Sean Hill's not a great quarterback, but he's good enough to get the job done against San Diego. Then we have probably one of the better games amongst the 4 o'clock session. Seahawks hosting the Cardinals. Sorry, Arizona, you had a great run, but Seattle's going to give you your second loss of the year. I know Seattle was predicted to win by exactly 61% of the fans, but I don't think Seattle is going to lose at home for this reason. I don't trust Drew Stanton going into Seattle. I trust him going into San Francisco. I don't trust him going into Seattle. Because of the crowd noise, because of the defense, just Seattle is a better team when they're at home by a long shot, and I think that'll prove to be enough of a difference. The Broncos hosting the Dolphins, Denver all day long. I know for a fact that Julius Thomas is out, more likely. Emmanuel Sanders more likely to be out, which will make the game considerably closer, but at the same time, I can't see a scenario in which Tannehill and the Dolphins go into Denver and knock off the Broncos. I'd be stunned to see that. Because Peyton Manning, because of the offense, because of the fact, let's not forget, they had the highest scoring offense in NFL history last year, and they still have most of the parts. I do know that there's one guy who can make a difference, and I think Wes Welker might have a good game out of the slot. I think this could be a game where he could potentially, make a huge impact for the first time this season. So I'm going to go with the Broncos. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as the fans predict, because let's put it this way, 94% of the fans are picking the Broncos. If the Dolphins beat them, it'd be surprising, but it wouldn't be shocking. I think Denver's going to beat them, but I do think it's going to be a good game. Washington at San Francisco, RG3, you can preach that you're on to San Francisco as much as you want. You've proven yourself to be an absolute crap leader, and you're turning into a crap quarterback. 49ers at home. I don't care if Patrick Willis and NaVar Bowman are out. Aldon Smith's back, and he is going to be up your ass all day long. 97% of the fans are picking the Niners for good reason. RG3 has been horrible this year, one of the worst quarterbacks in the pocket. Look for the Niners to make him feel more uncomfortable. And now the Sunday night game. We got the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. Not the same luster as it has because the Giants are reeling and the Cowboys are sailing right now. So I'm going with Dallas to go into New York and upset them. 85% of the people are predicting them to win. Because right now, Dallas looks better and New York still doesn't look good. Because it's not December 1st, so Tony Romo hasn't thrown a lot of interceptions yet. That was worth it. But remember also that the Giants this year have been absolutely dreadful on defense, and their turnover ratio is ridiculously bad. Looking at the way that it's gone this year, I mean, they've committed 21 turnovers. That's just extremely high total. I mean, Eli Manning's thrown 11 interceptions, so he hasn't played horribly. I mean, but at the same time, the whole Giants team itself is kind of in flux. Their once vaunted pass rush has been reduced to like a mere fire pistol, like a mere water pistol now, and it's not as intimidating as it used to be. And you got the Cowboys coming in; they're playing really good ball right now. DeMarcus Murray's running up a storm. I look for DeMarcus Murray to have a good game for the Dallas to win by about a touchdown. And now for the final game of the weekend, the Baltimore Ravens going to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Again, who dat, baby? I know the Saints may have struggled at home against the Bengals. They right the ship against the Ravens. You give Sean Payton an extra day to prepare to face you. You give Drew Brees an extra day. You're going to regret it. This is set up to be a game where Drew Brees goes out there and he just tears the Ravens to shreds. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the look on Joe Flacco's face next week. I mean, I'll be working, so I won't be able to see it till after the game when I see the highlights when I get home from work. But I cannot wait to see the look of disappointment on Joe Flacco's face when he leaves the Superdome after the Saints have thoroughly beaten him. This game is one game that I think people might think is close, going to be close. I mean, 64% of the fans are picking the Saints. That's not a huge swing, but I think this is a game where Drew Brees goes out there, throws a lot of touchdowns, and I think he soars against the Ravens. I have to pick a score for that game, so I'm thinking 34-24. So that is my preview show for Week 12. Stay tuned, and probably at around 10 o'clock, the top of the hour, I will be doing my post-season projections. I will be talking about who I think will make the playoffs and who will miss out. Please be sure to stay tuned, everybody.